Ah, yes, another day and another spectacular space weather video coming your way, complete with coronal mass ejections, solar flares, sunspot analysis, coronal holes, incoming space weather, and lots more. And thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name it news. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. This is the past 24 hours from SDO in 193 plus 304 angstroms. You may see an M-class flare in there. Also, huge plasma filament trailing that active sunspot. And a new sunspot right up here in your upper left, which has not gotten a name yet. That'll be known as 3333. Sunspot 3333. Here's the equatorial view. That shouldn't disappoint. Nice. Once again, lots of plasma filaments. The likelihood of coronal mass ejections in the earthly vicinity is nearly 100%. There is a lot of instability going on. And let's show the southern polar region here for a moment. Great depth depicted by these two wavelengths. The 304 angstroms is ionized helium. The 193 angstroms is ionized iron. And there's the northern hemisphere. You can see some massive plasma filaments up there as well. Filaments, filaments, filaments will continue to be the story, and we will be continuing to monitor for coronal mass ejections. Let's take a brief moment to see what's going on planet Earth. Yeah, croissant Earth. What's happening? Oh, I almost forgot. Here's a brief look at sunspots. So these sunspot groups have been mostly stable since yesterday. No major changes happening there, obviously, hence the word stable. And yeah, no major changes expected in the sunspot number today. A little bit of degradation in these groups over here in the southwest. There is the magnetometer, also from the SDO. And check this out, a foreboding scene here at Mount Mayon in the Philippines, as we have a growing lava dome up there, and that thing looks like it's ready to burst. Let's see what else is erupting here. Suwanosejima tops the list with a flight level 060. It's a 6,000-foot plume of volcanic ash over the Ryukyu Islands. Not to be confused with the Ryukyu Islands. Mount Mayon, there we go. The extrusive activity remains elevated. So some incandescent avalanches there as glowing rocks roll down the slopes of Mount Mayon. Perhaps a larger eruption is fixing to happen there. Again, a growing lava dome at Mount Mayon. Mount Ibu also exploding, flight level 080. That's an 8,000-foot ash plume over Halmahera, Indonesia. Krakatau exploding, flight level 060, 6,000-foot ash plume over the Sunda Strait. A strong eruptive episode is now in progress. Semeru also exploding, 14,000-foot ash plume over East Java, Indonesia from Semeru. And Kilauea actually is still active here. So the warning level went down, and maybe it's gone back up, but the effusive eruption continues within the Halemaumau crater. Go ahead, you can say it aloud, folks. I dare you. Halemaumau. Pronouncing the names of volcanoes will enhance your ability to speak the English language. So fountaining continuing there, and also a spatter cone forming. Kilauea remaining active there. The big island of Hawaii. Popocatépetl exploding, flight level 210 over central Mexico, flight level 200 over Colombia from Nevado del Ruiz's explosive activity. It's a 20,000-foot ash plume, 19,000-foot ash plume from Revenador in Ecuador. And also Sabancaya exploding, flight level 220 over the Peruvian volcano. It's a 22,000-foot ash plume. Here's what's going on seismically for the past 90 days. No major quakes in the past 24 hours. However, some in the upper 5 magnitude range. We'll cite the ones of 5 magnitude or higher, starting out with this 5.3 at the central mid-Atlantic ridge. There you go. It's 11:33 Universal Time. When right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, there was a 5.3 magnitude quake. Likely felt by just this side of nobody. Probably felt by nobody at all. So I have a 5.5 there. Real far south at the mid-Atlantic ridge. That was at 20:43 Universal Time yesterday evening. 21:21, we saw a Macquarie Island vicinity quake. South of Australia and New Zealand there, near the Australian/Pacific plate boundary. And it looks like those, one more, a 5.8 at Fiji. That was at 9:12 this morning. And let's get back to space. After all, it is the daily space weather. Here's the past 24 hours in SDO 171 angstroms. And let's add 211 angstroms to that for some additional extended corona. Also, you can see 3 significant coronal holes there, all on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. These 2 are North Pole-oriented, and this one over here is South Pole-oriented. We'll take a look at sector boundary crossings and so on here in just a moment. First, let's talk about some more stats. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux now at 164 solar flux units. And there's the last year of activity. You can see we may be preparing for a significant breakout here. Some people think we're not going to get over 170 for the sunspot number and radial flux. We've already been well over 170. As you can see, the radial flux has been up to 234 solar flux units. And we are not anticipating that we have seen solar maximum yet for this cycle, so we are expecting to get actually even higher than that yet in this solar sunspot cycle. Solar cycle 25, a much stronger solar cycle than solar cycle 24. Next, the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard here, not forecasting any geomagnetic storms or geomagnetic unrest. We are expecting a coronal hole high-speed wind stream to show up, so also a possible CME impact. And watch our video from 2 days ago. If you haven't seen that, you can find it in the Daily Space Weather Videos playlist on YouTube. So NOAA not forecasting anything, and we are expecting some minor upticks. We could see something like a KP6, a low-level geomagnetic storm from some of these inputs. It all depends on the magnetic fields and so on. And let's continue on with some additional data here. Here is Earth's magnetic moment from space for the past 4 hours. The Geospace Magnetosphere movie here depicting magnetohydrodynamic pressure. Not showing a lot going on, although we're seeing a much stronger solar wind than what we saw yesterday. Yesterday, the solar wind was so weak that we put some alarmist stuff on our thumbnail. By the way, thanks to our new subscribers on YouTube. Here's the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. And if you thought Earth's magnetic poles were going to flip, you'd be expecting to see quadrupoles forming on there, and you don't see any such thing. Why? Because it's very unlikely that Earth's magnetic poles are going to flip. Just a bunch of alarmist crap. That's the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground level. It's showing magnetic flux density nanotesla. KP index is currently at 1.33. Again, geomagnetically calm conditions indeed. And look at the real-time solar wind next to see pretty unremarkable data there. Current conditions are about 3.5 protons per cubic centimeter for the solar wind density. Solar wind speed here, 313 kilometers a second. And there are our GOES magnetometers here. Saw a little spike there on the GOES 18. No big deal. Smooth readings. Expect them to get choppy when we see some incoming coronal mass ejection or coronal hole high-speed stream. Next, the top view ecliptic plane field plot, and Earth is just moving into the South Pole current sheet. So in the next couple of hours, Earth will be in the South Pole current sheet, depicted right here. South Pole plasma there in red, North Pole plasma there in green. Sector boundary crossing coming in a few hours. Here's our line of sight field plot. You can see the solar B field depicted there in blue, and as the sector boundary crossing approaches, that B field kind of oriented toward the Earth as the South Pole current sheet is almost here. Next, our line of sight coronal hole plot. And the most important feature, in my opinion, is not sunspots, it is this coronal hole. That coronal hole hanging out at the north heliographic pole. It's made its way past Earth once again without moving toward the equator. So we are still awaiting the migration of that coronal hole. It's still hanging out at the north heliographic pole, which means we are still not at solar maximum. I don't care who tells you we're at solar maximum. We just aren't at solar maximum. So here's the past 24 hours in STO 171 plus 211 angstroms, and let's subtract the 171 angstroms to bring out those coronal holes. Once again, the ones over there on the right side of the solar disk, those are North Pole oriented. On the left side, that trans-equatorial coronal hole is South Pole oriented. And we can expect some significant space weather from that one. That'll take about 5 days for that to arrive. So sometime like mid to late week, next week, we can expect to see some solar wind intensification in the form of a high-speed coronal hole wind stream. Next, we'll move to sunspots. Here's a little more in-depth analysis of those. Before we do that, take a moment to visit our affiliate links. You may see a paid affiliate/sponsor link for this video. One of those affiliate/sponsors is Hemp Lucid. If you're shopping over at Hemp Lucid, make sure you enter the promo code SMASHOMASH to give us credit for the reference. The promo code SMASHOMASH. It'll save you 10% also. So make sure you enter that promo code SMASHOMASH on checkout. You can also shop via our link, which is conveniently placed below this video, as well as on our homepage at smashomash.com. They make great gifts. Have you tried out the mushroom focus gummies? That's my favorite. They've got cordyceps in there. I won't talk about the health claims or anything like that, but if you are picking up the products, again, don't forget to enter the promo code SMASHOMASH to save 10% on checkout. And if you want to support the channel via a subscription service, join the Smash Team at smashomash.com/Smash Team. We will provide you with additional content now and then for the Gold and Silver Smash Team members. You can even get yourself an @smashomash.com email address if you join at the Gold membership level. You'll also hear about a plausible explanation for the mechanism that underlies the sunspot cycles before we've even before we've even written the paper. The Gold Smash Team already knows about it. It's $9.99 a month. The best value is the Gold annual paid-up subscription, smashomash.com/Smash Team, our own subscription services site, to help increase the probability these videos will continue to exist, remain publicly visible, and free for all to view. So here's a sunspot situation. Again, we expect one more new sunspot to get a name here. This one down here in the lower left, the southeastern limb, that'll be known as Sunspot 3333. A great, easy name to remember, 3333. And let's take a look at sunspots here from SDO. So here is the SDO magnetogram for the past 24 hours. Again, not a lot of changes happening there. A little bit of degradation of those sunspots in the southwestern limb. Allow me to get out of the way. There you go. Southwestern limb degradation. Besides that, very little changes there in the past 24 hours. And that may be more evident in the SDO continuum imagery, so we'll bring that up next. So we've got some magnetically complex sunspot groups right in the Earth strike zone, right here, just moving past the directly Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. That sunspot's got a lot of umbrae, and, well, this one has been the one that's produced the largest flares in the past 24, so there is a significant possibility for large solar flares. And the footage that we have today of solar flares is just spectacular. So we'll get to that next. First, the ghost proton flux. No solar energetic particle events despite a significant solar flare yesterday. Peak flux was around 1710. The total duration there was like about 2.5 hours. And we have seen an overall decline in the X-ray flux. Now we're down to about a B7.8 background X-ray flux. And check out these sweet images. These are money shots indeed. So here's the past 24 hours in SDO. That's 131 plus 94 angstroms. And let's get a little closer there. Don't be shy. There's the equatorial zoom for the past 24. We've got some ultra slow motion clips, and thanks for leaving a comment, John. So here's the past 24 in the southeastern limb. You saw that M-class solar flare there. And let's slow it down. And I mean slow it way down. Those 24-hour videos that we showed you there, those are all 30 frames per second. We've slowed down this 3-hour period here to 5 frames per second. And it is well worth the wait. So have some patience. Have some patience. And here comes that flare in the southeastern limb. In excellent slow motion detail. Oh, what's that? You'd like it zoomed in a little bit? All right, I think we can probably accommodate that. Yeah, we've slowed these all the way down to 5 frames per second there, about 1/6 the normal speed that we show. We've got some fantastic detail here and some other wavelengths. So here we've taken 131 plus 171 angstroms and put them together. You can see a bunch of plasma reorienting there at the just as the flare occurs. That is some sweet imagery indeed, folks. We're going to let that play through in its entirety. How you like them apples? Next, we've got 94 angstroms by itself. Again, this is only depicting about 3 hours here. But we've slowed it all the way down to 5 frames per second. By the way, there was a coronal mass ejection associated with this M-class solar flare, which we will also show you. Is it earthly directed? We will let you know when we get to the coronal mass ejections section of the video. See that flare simmering down there around 1900 Universal Time yesterday. Here we've put together 304 plus 171 angstroms. can see a bunch of filaments moving around there in those wavelengths. And oh, okay, we've also got 304 plus 94 angstroms. So, by the way, folks, you can expect more and more of these extreme close-up, slow-motion solar flare animations for the channel going forward. And thanks to our new subscribers. Don't forget to press like, share, etc. Visit our links. Support the channel via clicks, membership services, etc. Thanks to everybody who has, especially the gold level Smash Team members. Next, we'll take a moment to orient ourselves here before we talk about solar flares. This is what's going on overhead in Lehigh Valley right now. Just press the Now button, and you've got the Moon and Saturn kind of close together up there. If you're up before dawn, you may see them rather high in the sky. The Moon and Saturn there in the constellation Aquarius. By the way, today's featured product is Shartlight. Yeah, Shartlight. A lot of Shartlighting going on the internet, which is when people attempt to gaslight you, which is a psychological abuse where people attempt to get you to think that the past happened in a different way than it really did in order to do things like further their grifting. There's a lot of Shartlighting going on when it comes to space weather, especially on YouTube, as people are paid 6 and 7 figures to just outright lie to their viewers. So, don't Shartlight. Yeah, Shartlight. It's when you destroy your own credibility by attempting to gaslight somebody and failing at it. Don't try to gaslight somebody with a better memory than you, as you'll fail. They'll call you out, and you will crap on your own credibility. So don't Shartlight, folks. It's a bad idea. It is a verb that we have actually created on the channel. Here's your solar system forecast. This is where things are today. And there's where things will be in a week. We're like 8 days from a new moon, my favorite phase. Shout out to all my reverse werewolves out there who sleep well, do not cannibalize humans, and are just happy, functioning, productive members of society. So here comes some coronagraphs. And again, we've got a major CME there from the southeastern limb. I believe some people are reporting that there is a possible Earth-directed component to this. I disagree there. I don't think it does have an earthly directed component. It looks pretty much like it's off to the east. Keep in mind the Earth, like from this perspective, the Earth is actually moving this way also. So I don't think it's earthly directed. And let us know in the comments if you disagree, agree, whatever. Here are today's coronagraphs. We'll also show stereo A in a minute here. Here's LASCO C2 and C3 together. And we've got some composite images for you here in a minute as well. The reason I don't think it's earthly directed is because you can see it's completely off the one side there. I think there may be a separate event going on. A lot of times you see a CME happening in multiple locations at the same time. So it looks like there may be a far side event happening at a similar time there. Simultaneous events happen all the time. Here's the view from stereo A as well. And we show this diagram to show how close together stereo A, B, and the Earth are at the moment. There's stereo A on the left, and Soho LASCO C3 on the right. If it does have an earthly directed component, it will be a minor glancing blow, unlikely to produce anything beyond a KP6 or so. And let's move to our custom chronograph images. There's the past 24. And you'll get a great view of that CME happening there from the southeastern limb when we zoom in a little bit. You'll see the plasma exiting the sun right there, right around the time of that M-class solar flare. And on the channel, just a quick reminder, we don't say that solar flares cause coronal mass ejections. We just say that they're associated with coronal mass ejections because, remember, folks, correlation does not necessarily mean causation, right? So, for example, did you know that ice cream consumption and shark attacks are correlated? Yeah, ice cream consumption and shark attacks are correlated. Does that mean eating an ice cream cone makes a shark attack you? Let us know in the comments what you think. Here's the past 24 hours from an even closer zoom in. And you can see that flare and associated CME happening there. Also, some reverberation there. Like a sun-wide event happened there. You can see a little bit of flashing. 193 angstroms is a great wavelength to show all of that. And here is 193 angstroms by itself. It's great at showing the extended corona, coronal holes, also active regions. 193 angstroms is all around a pretty good overall wavelength. And of course, the colors there are just arbitrary. Keep in mind that wavelength is not orange at all. These are all part of the extreme ultraviolet spectrum. That is not even visible from the surface, much less with the naked eye. You need spacecraft to be able to view that. And let's get back to our data sets. So next, looking at solar filaments here, and there are a massive number of Earth-facing solar filaments. I mean, yesterday we counted about a dozen of them, and indeed there are still quite a lot. So, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Like, there's like a lot of solar filaments. And once again, like we said yesterday, the likelihood of coronal mass ejections is just this side of 100%. It's about as close to 100% as you can get. And the likelihood of those CMEs being earthly directed is kind of high because, well, frankly, the closer the filament is to this area, when it ejects, the more likely it is to have earthly directed components. So that's a lot of filaments there, as shown by the El Teide, Spain ground-based solar observatory, part of the National Solar Observatory, depicting hydrogen alpha. And you can see prominences. Those are the same feature as these dark absorption features. They are all solar filaments, a bunch of plasma suspended by magnetic fields, defying gravity. Here's the past couple of hours from the GOES SUVI. And there's a massive CME happening as we stream the video. So check it out. You can see this filament right up here becoming unstable. And at least part of it looks like it's making its way out. Now, that does not look like an earthly directed CME either. It looks like it's headed off to the west and probably the northwest. But a little bit too early for that. Keep in mind the magnetic fields can fling these coronal mass ejections in perhaps unexpected directions. So that's the past about 2.5 hours there from the GOES SUVI. We may have to make another video about that CME. That's happening once again as we produce the video. That brings us to bonus features. Satellite charging hazards don't exist. It's smooth sailing for satellites at the moment, as reported by the satellite's community dashboard. The GOES electron flux, a little bit higher than expected here. We are expecting a dip in this when we see a coronal hole high-speed stream impact, especially. There should be a good signal because the solar wind has been so weak. There's the one-year graph to put the electron flux in context. Again, we are at low levels at the moment. Keep in mind those electrons are largely earthly in origin, we think. And there is the forecast model by NOAA. You can see actually much higher levels than NOAA forecasted here. NOAA forecasting a dip coming tomorrow and an even lower dip coming on Monday. So that's the NOAA forecast for relativistic electrons. Those are measured at the F layer of the ionosphere, Feel free to pause the video on this frame if you're not familiar with the data depicted. Here is the ionosphere in vibrational frequency. So there's a lot of vibration happening around the bridge between Earth and space. That's at about 300 kilometers of altitude. This data courtesy the Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. And thanks for leaving a comment, Mr. Bordages. Anyway, we're only about 11 days from summer, folks. So it's the sunniest 22 days of the year for the Northern Hemisphere and the darkest 22 days. The darkest 3 weeks of the year for the Southern Hemisphere and the brightest 3 weeks of the year for the North. This is the anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. Nothing too extreme going on at the moment here in the ionosphere. And if you disagree with me on that, let us know in the comments there. Here's the latest image, 11:30 Universal Time ionogram and 11:30 Universal Time anomalygram. Total electron content is free electrons up to about 12,500 miles of altitude. We show it daily as it is another space weather stat. Yes, space weather, it can affect your GPS. And here we see some significant anomalies in the total electron content forecast. That is a count of the free electrons from ground level to about 12,500 miles of altitude. And we do indeed see some high electron contents out of place there, some GPS errors expected in perhaps unexpected locations. It's the coupled thermosphere, ionosphere, plasmasphere electrodynamics model. And there is the total electron content for North America anomaly from 10-day average. And we do see some significant anomalies here. Some not far from the Cascadia fault zone. And also some more here around the west coast of the U.S. and also southern Mexico. Again, that's the total electron content anomaly from the 10-day average for North America. And hey, who knows? Maybe that data will actually be important because who knows? Maybe it'll actually be able to be used for some predictive value. Anyway, we're going to finish out the bonus feature segment of the space weather section with the latest magnetogram and colorized and solar continuum. Oh, and check it out. New sunspot possibly rising or forming down here. So there you go. That might be a new sunspot. It's maybe too early to tell there. The magnetic fields are looking, I don't know. But yeah, the possibility of a new sunspot there, either rising or forming at quite a high latitude, actually. You can see it's quite far from the equator. And this sunspot here, it still does have some significant deltas there. You can see some North Pole magnetic field up here and some South Pole magnetic field back here. This sunspot here, which has been the main culprit for large flares, that one also beta gamma delta class. And we've got some sunspots reaching the limb there as well. So the potential for large solar flares remains despite an overall slight downtick since yesterday. Continuing on to our meteorology segment, we're looking for the world's largest waves. I think they've moved. We have about 40 footers there west of India. So that's the animation depicts winds. It's also the world's strongest winds there. Hurricane plus force winds at least 79 miles an hour and 39-foot waves. So that is the windiest and waviest portion of the planet. There's actually another one right over here, but it's not quite as beefy. So that's a lot less organized than this one. That's depicting significant wave height in the color and surface winds in the animation. So that's the windiest and waviest portion of the planet right now. Some significant lows there in the South Atlantic as well. Not quite as burly as that one in the Indian Ocean. Anyway, that's the situation for wave chasing. Here's a situation for surface winds. So quite a concentrated system there, and another tropical cyclone here, still loitering in the West Pacific. These are the jet streams of the eastern world. Jet streams of the western world depicted here. Still got an incoherent jet stream over the U.S., but it's going to rebuild and get a little bit more normal here in the coming days. We'll show you a forecast for that. First, the surface winds. There you have it. And it's windy east of the Drake Passage. Surface winds of Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. And there are the jet streams. All right, continuing on. We've got some major thunderstorms here right now over Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas. Let me just press refresh and get that initialized. Some fantastic satellite imagery there from Witty.com. Looks like clouds are building there. And also you can see there's a pressure gradient down here. People are going to say it's chemtrails because they don't understand atmospheric physics. You see these lines here? Ooh, those lines, those must be chemtrails. Or maybe somebody's turned on the HARP base. Yeah, oh yeah. Because people idiotically believe that mankind control large-scale weather patterns and the climate. It's pretty pathetic when you think of it. It's really quite ridiculous. And let's take a look at what's going on for clouds and fog over the Americas. Now, it's too dark to use the visible satellite here, so we use a 3.9 micrometer infrared radiation map. And you can see some equatorial cloud bands there. And you can see the odd weather patterns there over the U.S. Those are caused by the jet stream, not by contrails, not by HARP, not by geoengineering, not by ScopeX, not by Bulgarians firing rockets at hailstorms to divert them from crops, and not by Chinese, Tibetan ground-based geoengineering stations. Here's your weather.gov map, and some weather warnings there, like hydrologic outlooks and so forth. If your location is lit, head to weather.gov. We've scrolled down to show you the key. That's about the best we can do, as we don't zoom in too far on local weather unless there are specific forecasts that we're looking to do. If you've got a specific forecast you'd like, hit us up in the comments. We will consider it. So here are some forecasts. This is the GFS 72-hour forecast for the jet stream, and you can see it's reforming there over the central U.S. So that's a good thing. Weather patterns are going to get a little bit more normal here, as we've had stagnating smoky air from Canada. That's going to start to get whisked off as the jet stream reforms. It's 72-hour GFS forecast for 250 millibar winds. Here's your 72-hour pressure and precipitation forecast based on the same model, the GFS. And that's what's going on in terms of precipitation. And we definitely need some in Pennsylvania, as we are in an extreme drought mode in nearly the entire state. The grass is crunchy. Next, the 72-hour temperature anomaly forecast, as cool temperatures continue to mostly dominate the eastern portion of the U.S., and unseasonably warm temperatures, for the most part, dominating the Pacific Northwest. Temperature anomaly in degrees Celsius is what we're showing here. It is, once again, the GFS model. And let's close this mother out here, as we've got some more weather data for you there. There's the past about 10 and a half hours of, about 10 hours, I think it is, of lightning. Quite a bit of lightning there in the central part of the U.S. And here's the current situation. Hey, Pine Bluff. Hey, Stuttgart. There's thunder rolling in. We've got some concentrated, fairly high-intensity thunderstorms there, but they are small in terms of their lightning output, at least. And we've indeed got some Oklahoma City lightning as well. Oklahoma City, there's some thunder rolling in for you as well there. Let's show the global map here briefly from lightningmaps.org. Next time you hear thunder, check it out. Lots of lightning there in Central Europe once again. Day after day after day of thunderstorms around Central Europe. Doesn't look like a drought around most of the area surrounding the Mediterranean Sea. Today's featured product, by the way, is our air fryer. Yeah, that's the air fryer that we actually use. We've got an Amazon shop, so check that out if you haven't. Amazon.com/shop/smashomash. It's also linked below the video. All kinds of different products for you there. Our Amazon selections. And if you want to get more posts about things like lifestyle, fitness, diet, etc., make sure you join us on Instagram. Lots of interesting posts over there. Press like, subscribe, share if you enjoy the content on YouTube. We need your assistance to get these videos onto screens. I won't explain why, but press the share button, press comment, etc. Thanks to our new subscribers. And once again, to everybody out there, congratulations on realizing the channel exists. Frankly, we're surprised that you have. You can find links to the YouTube channel, etc. on smashomash.com. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance, as it is time for a major scientific awakening to occur, as there are certainly many reasons why cosmology is about to get a rewrite. Our regular viewers know why, and that's because we've been covering this for quite a while. So we'll close out today's video with smoke maps. So there's your current smoke map. Let's make sure we have the latest layer. There we go. There's the latest refresh. And the smoke is clearing out for the Mid-Atlantic states for today. And here are those strong storms. It looks like, indeed, Little Rock is in the crosshairs. Keep in mind, some of those storms could produce damaging wind and hail. Please follow your weather alerts. Weather.gov might be a good place to check that out. Here's the full 50-state view briefly, as some precipitation is showing up there in southern Alaska. And shout out to our viewers from all 50 states and from all around the world. We'll focus on the lower 48. Here is clouds and fog depicted by 3.9 micrometer radiation. And here is 6.19, no, it's 6.19 micrometer radiation. 6.19 micrometer there. That's the frequency, the wavelength rather, of the infrared part of the spectra that shows the water vapor. And once again, the jet stream is responsible for these weather systems just loitering here and not moving the normal way from west to east. Massive pressure gradients there forming over Texas. Here's the recap. Oh, we'll show the smoke map. There's the recap. Your smoke map. U.S. Doppler radar map. Clouds and fog. And water vapor, which should help you out if your Doppler is unclear. Anyway, thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, because I'm frightened of a bunch of things that aren't scary at all because of watching YouTube videos from pseudoscience hacks who claim to be scientists. Since I'm now frightened by all of the spooky videos about all the spooky stuff going on overhead. Oh, space, the galaxy, the sun, everything's scary, folks. So I am headed back to the bunker. In the meantime, may that solar wind be at your back. What?